All right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive. And today we're diving headfirst into something that's really got the internet buzzing. It's this whole DOGE thing, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah, it's certainly a head turner for sure.
Well, I'm all about efficiency, right? Like in my own life and in my work. So why not the government too?
Right. But DOGE, it's not just some boring policy proposal. It's really become this weird mix of like serious political talk and internet meme culture.
Yeah, it's a strange combo at first glance, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you've got these big names like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, even Donald Trump, all backing this thing. But then the name itself is like straight out of the Doge meme.
It really is. It's like someone said, "Hey, let's take this complex issue like reforming the government and just sprinkle it with internet humor." And you know what? It's actually working. People are talking about it. Yeah, that's step one, right? Getting people engaged and talking. But let's move past the name for a second and actually look at, what DOGE is proposing. So at its core, it's all about making the federal government, more streamlined, cutting costs and making government spending a lot more transparent.
So less red tape,
Yeah.
more bang for our buck. I mean, that's something we can all get behind.
Right. It's appealing to a lot of people. This idea that, maybe our tax dollars could actually be used more efficiently.
Okay, so we've got the concept,
Yeah.
but it's the people who are behind it that make it really interesting. I mean, Elon Musk, the guy who's like revolutionized electric cars and space travel, now he wants to tackle government bureaucracy.
Well, Musk has this reputation, right, for bringing data-driven efficiency to his companies, and his supporters really believe he could bring that same mindset to the government. I mean, think about how Tesla, streamlined car manufacturing, or how SpaceX has just disrupted the space industry. So the question is, could those same principles work for something as massive and complex as the federal government?
It's like he sees DOGE as the ultimate optimization challenge. And then there's Vivek Ramaswamy, right, who's all about smaller government and free markets.
Yeah.
Does DOGE kind of fit into that vision?
Oh, absolutely. Ramaswamy's entire platform is built on this idea that government has gotten way too big and inefficient. So he sees DOGE as a way to kind of shrink the size and scope of the government, maybe reducing its role in areas that he thinks are better left to the private sector.
And then, of course, we can't forget about Donald Trump, who made cutting government waste a major part of his campaigns in the past. So his support for DOGE seems kind of like a natural next step for him.
Right, for Trump, DOGE really fits into his populist message.
Yeah.
It taps into that feeling that the government is wasteful and out of touch, and it really positions him as the champion for the average taxpayer.
It's really interesting how one idea can appeal to so many different political figures. But we've kind of danced around it long enough. Let's talk about the elephant, or maybe the Doge in the room. The name. It's brilliant marketing. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But does it also kind of undermine how serious the proposal is?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, the name is super catchy, it's meme-worthy, it's generated a ton of headlines, and it's gotten people talking. But does it also risk making the whole thing seem like a joke, especially to those who aren't super familiar with, internet culture?
It's like they're trying to make government reform go viral. And in a way they have.
Yeah.
But will that actually translate into real change?
Well, that's what we need to figure out. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about what DOGE could actually mean for the average person. For you listening right now. What would the real world impact of this department be if it actually happened?
So, well, first off, imagine a world where dealing with the government isn't just this like soul-crushing exercise in bureaucracy.
Right.
That's the dream that DOGE is selling. A government that operates more like a well-oiled machine instead of, some rusty old tractor.
Yeah, sign me up for that. But how would that actually play out in real life? Would we see, fewer government agencies, maybe even some mergers?
Yeah, that's definitely on the table. I mean, one of DOGE's main goals is to get rid of all the redundancy and overlap between the different agencies. Like right now, you've got multiple agencies that are involved in regulating food safety, for example. So DOGE could, combine those functions into just one agency. It would streamline the process and potentially save a bunch of money. So instead of going through this like bureaucratic maze, you just have one place to go for, getting a business permit or accessing social services or something like that.
Exactly. And that could have a ripple effect, right? Not just on how the government works internally, but also on how we interact with it.
Okay, that sounds pretty good in theory.
Yeah.
But what about the downsides? We've all heard those horror stories about government IT projects going like totally off the rails.
Yeah.
What's to stop DOGE from becoming just another one of those bureaucratic nightmares?
I mean, that's a valid concern. It's something that DOGE's proponents need to address, for sure. I mean, making these kinds of sweeping changes, it wouldn't be easy. You'd need really careful planning and robust oversight and a realistic understanding of just how complex all of this is.
And let's be real, change usually comes with some growing pains, right? What about the people who actually work for these federal agencies?
Mm.
D.O.G.E could mean that some people lose their jobs or have to make major changes to their careers.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no way around it. Streamlining government operations could mean job cuts for some people. And even for those who get to keep their jobs, DOGE could mean some pretty big organizational changes, new responsibilities, a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a big idea like DOGE,
Mm.
but we can't forget about the potential impact on people's lives.
You're right. And that's where the debate gets really interesting, right? Like, how do you find that balance between the potential benefits of, making things more efficient and the potential disruptions to people's lives?
It's a tough question. It's one that deserves a lot of thought. So let's say just hypothetically that DOGE actually overcomes all these hurdles and they implement it. How would we even know if it was working? What would success look like?
Yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? The
Yeah.
people who support DOGE talk a lot about efficiency, but how do you actually measure that? Is it just about, reducing the number of government employees, cutting budgets, shortening wait times for services?
Yeah, it seems like you could just cherry pick data to make DOGE look like a success, even if the underlying problems are still there.
Exactly. And that's why it's really important to have these clear, measurable metrics for success right from the beginning.
Hmm.
What are the specific goals that DOGE is trying to achieve, and how are we going to actually track progress towards those goals?
So we need more than just, catchy slogans and promises. We need real evidence that this thing is actually delivering.
Absolutely. And that evidence needs to be transparent and easy for the public to access. If DOGE is really about accountability, then we need to be able to hold it accountable.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits and the potential problems. We talked about, the impact on government workers and how to measure success. But let's get down to brass tacks here. How would DOGE actually work in practice? What are some of the ideas that are being floated? All right, so we know DOGE is all about, trimming the fat and bringing some of that Silicon Valley magic to Washington. But how are they actually going to do that? What's in their efficiency toolkit?
Well, one idea that's been getting a lot of attention is this thing called zero-based budgeting. And it's a pretty big change from the way the government usually does its budgeting.
Zero-based budgeting. That sounds intense. Maybe a little scary for some of those government agencies.
It would definitely shake things up a bit. So imagine this. Instead of just starting with last year's budget and adding on top of that, every single agency would have to justify every dollar they request from scratch.
Wow.
Right.
So no more coasting on autopilot.
Yeah.
Every program, every paperclip would need a really good reason to exist.
Exactly. It's like putting each government program through this, rigorous audition every year.
I can already hear the groans from bureaucrats everywhere. But I got to admit, it does sound like a way to force agencies to really focus on what's important and get creative.
Right. That's the whole point. People who like zero-based budgeting argue that it gets rid of waste by making agencies constantly reevaluate what they're doing and figure out what spending isn't really necessary.
It also brings a level of transparency that's pretty appealing. Imagine being able to see exactly how every single tax dollar is being spent and why.
Yeah, transparency is a big selling point for DOGE in general. The idea is to give taxpayers the power to, hold the government accountable for how they're using our money.
Okay, so zero-based budgeting is one tool in the DOGE toolbox. What else are they proposing?
Another big focus is using technology to streamline things in the government. Think automation, data analytics, and delivering services digitally.
So basically bringing the government into 21st century. It's about time, right?
Yeah, it does feel a bit overdue. Many government processes are still surprisingly old school. Paper forms, manual data entry, in-person appointments that could easily be done online.
Oh, tell me about it. I can't even count how many times I've just wanted to scream
Yeah.
trying to navigate a government website. It's
Mm.
like they haven't been updated since the 90s.
Well, the people behind DOGE argue that, modernizing these systems could save money and make it way less painful for all of us to deal with the government.
Right. Imagine being able to renew your driver's license, file your taxes, or apply for benefits with just a few clicks. That's the dream of a truly digital government.
Of course, implementing these big technological changes would come with its own challenges. Cybersecurity, data privacy, and making sure everyone has equal access would all be really important.
And we can't forget about those infamous government IT project disasters where millions of dollars just vanish into this black hole of buggy software. Yeah, exactly. It's not as easy as just, throwing technology at the problem.
Yeah.
You need careful planning, realistic expectations, and a deep understanding of both the tech side and the bureaucratic side of things.
So we've got zero-based budgeting and a tech makeover. Anything else in DOGE's efficiency playbook?
One more key thing is this emphasis on measuring outcomes and not just outputs.
Okay, I'm going to need you to explain that one. What's the difference?
So traditionally, a lot of government agencies have been evaluated based on their outputs, like how many people they helped or how much money they spent. But the people who support DOGE say that we need to start focusing more on outcomes, the actual impact that those programs are having.
So it's not just about, how many people signed up for job training. It's about how many of them actually found jobs afterwards.
Exactly. It's about measuring how effective government programs are at actually achieving their goals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you measure something as complicated as, societal impact? It seems like that could get pretty subjective. It's definitely challenging, but there are ways to develop, meaningful metrics that go beyond just counting people or dollars.
And this all ties back into transparency, right? If we're going to hold the government accountable for results, we need to be able to see how they're measuring those results.
Exactly. It's about making government data accessible and understandable to everyone, so we can all see if our tax dollars are being used well.
So to wrap it all up, we've got zero-based budgeting tech upgrades and this focus on outcome-based measurement. Those are like the pillars of DOGE's plan for a leaner and more efficient government.
It's a bold vision, and it's sparking a lot of debate, which is a good thing. With any complex issue, there aren't any easy answers. But by looking at different perspectives and asking tough questions, we can start to create a future where the government works better for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into DOGE. It's been a wild ride exploring this intersection of memes, government reform, and the quest for efficiency.
Whether you're a huge DOGE fan, a skeptic, or just curious about this whole debate, one thing's for sure, this conversation is far from over.
And we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on DOGE? Think it could actually revolutionize the government? Or is it all just hype? Let us know in the comments and keep the conversation going.
And if you're hungry for more deep dives into, the stuff that's shaping our world, be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss an episode.
Oh, and hey, if you're really feeling the DOGE vibes, check out the link down in the description for our awesome merch store. You can show off your support for government efficiency and style.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep.